everyone, my name is Allie Weber and I am a 15-year-old award-winning, patent-holding, Hello everyone, my name is Allie Weber and I am a 15-year-old award-winning, patent-holding, maker, builder, and inventor. And I'm also known for being one of the hosts of the TV show Mythbusters Jr. I first got into engineering and inventing when I was 6 when I won my local science fair with the robot I built out of only recycled materials.
Hello, this is Roby the robot, and he is here to make recycling fun.
I have been making and innovating ever since. Some of my inventions include the Gorilla Soccer Trainer, the world's first pendulum-style soccer trainer, the Gotcha Back Binder Strap, a backpack strap that turns 3-ring school binders into backpacks, the Card Go Caddy, a system that allows you to play card games in a moving vehicle, the Blow Dart Spirometer, a respirator device that helps make respiratory therapy more fun, and the Frost Stoppers, my patented temperature-sensing gloves that can sense when you're about to get frostbite. I entered my innovations into a lot of invention competitions over the years, and ended up winning quite a few, such as the Discovery Education 3M Young Scientist Challenge, the Paradigm Challenge, the Spark Lab Invent It Challenge, and more. I was even recognized as one of Vogue's 21 Under 21 in 2017. Then, in 2018, I spent all summer recording episodes for the TV show Mythbusters Jr. All these things were such amazing experiences that allowed me to grow, learn, and make new friends. This is why I'm so thankful and excited to share my latest project with you all here at Miami Maker Faire. This is the Rubik's Arcade Bot, and basically its only purpose is to make a more complicated and fun way to solve a Rubik's Cube. So, this is your standard Rubik's Cube. I have been solving this since about 5th grade when it became really popular for a few months for some reason. And so I finished solving this and learning the algorithm, and I thought, oh, this is pretty easy. I don't really have much more to do with this. So I wanted to come up with a more fun way that allows you to manipulate a Rubik's Cube without having to use your hands, which makes it a million times harder. So the solution for this is the Rubik's Arcade Bot. So basically what it is it has 3 buttons, and those are the only 3 buttons you can use to manipulate the Rubik's Cube. And all you want to do is, this is the rotate button. You have a button that can flip over the cube, and you have a button that can actually turn the bottom on the cube and it flips it over. So on top of it already having the turns down and the flips, then it flips it over every time you turn it, so it makes it way harder to do the algorithms in your head. And it's just really fun to be able to mess with for a long time because it's just so difficult to actually get it to do what you want without having it in your hands, and it's just amazing. I also made it light up on the inside, so that's why it's kind of glowy. I used a Blacklight. And then I have a reflective top on here that allows for more light to go down on the bottom. And basically, it's just a really hard way to solve a Rubik's Cube, and that's what I love about it. So, yeah, pretty fun. So the idea for this project came actually from when I was younger. I was in a Lego League team. And I saw a bunch of projects online talking about these robots that people were making out of Lego Mindstorms that were being used to solve Rubik's Cubes. And I thought that was super cool and that our team should definitely do that. But we actually were too focused on working on our robot during those years to actually build a Rubik's Cube solving robot at that time. So I just kind of had to put that on the back burner and save that idea for later. And comes up to this last year, I was trying to think of a project for Miami Maker Faire coming up, and in the previous years I brought some of my inventions that I made in the past, such as the Blow Dart Spirometer and the Frost Stopper, but those things not everybody can play with themselves. They're kind of fragile, and they're not very interactive as projects at that time since they were just prototypes. So I wanted to be able to bring something that everybody could play with and be able to have fun with, and I thought, hey, why not do a Rubik's Cube bot that doesn't solve the Rubik's Cube, because there are a lot of those out there, but just makes it way harder for you to solve the Rubik's Cube. So I thought that would be a great idea, and that's where this idea was born. When I first started brainstorming for this project, then I was thinking of building maybe like a cube with different servos on each side of the Rubik's Cube. So here, I have a better example. So I would have each of the servos attached to one of the sides of the Rubik's Cube like this, This is how a Rubik's Cube core looks like, by the way. I don't know if that's the correct term, but that's what I'm going to say. It is, it's a core. But yeah, each of the servos would be connected to one of these sides, and then you just turn the side according to each servo, based off of each button. And then after looking up how much the servos and the wood would cost, I decided that was a bad idea. So I ended up going back to the original idea of using Legos to do that. And there were already plenty of Lego designs out there, so I just picked one. It was called the Mindcuber. You can find it online. I can actually put the link in the video. I followed those instructions. I made the robot that can manipulate the Rubik's Cube. I didn't include all of the sensors needed because that's for the self-solving Rubik's Cube robot, and I didn't want it to be self-solving. I just wanted it to be able to manipulate the Rubik's Cube fairly easily, so that's why I left out some of the sensors and included more touch sensors to control it. And that's really where the main idea came from. So I think I put that together first, just with normal touch sensors. And then I decided, moving on from that, to build this arcade box for the outside. Two more of my design constraints were that it had to be portable because I wanted to take it to Miami Maker Faire and I didn't want to have to pay extra for shipping and stuff. So I wanted it to be portable so I could bring it along with me and just set it up there. And I also wanted it to be able to have black lights or light up in some way because that just seemed really, really cool. And I definitely wanted to include that in my final design. My original idea would have looked a little something like this design that I found on Instructables by Ryan Z20. But the Instructables design was really complicated and it didn't actually show a video of it working, so I was a little skeptical. So I decided just to go with the Lego Mindstorms, which I was already kind of experienced in and it would be easier to program, so I figured that that would be the way to go. So I just used a regular Lego Mindstorms EV3 for the brain of the build. Shout out to my friend Carson for actually letting me use all of his Mindstorms parts so I could actually build this project. But I started off by organizing all the parts on the table, and it got really chaotic really quickly. So I just started, and this is what it looks like now. Hopefully it'll look better when I finish it, but this is where I'm at. Oh, and this is the mess I've created of the table. I tried to organize it to start, and then it just kind of devolved into this, so hopefully it's fine. It's a work in progress. So after the project got a little bit too chaotic for the table, then I moved into the other room and kind of took over the floor in that room for a long time until I actually finished the build, and this is what it looked like when it was finished. So after I finished putting together the Lego robotics part of it, then I wanted to create the design for the actual arcade box. So I just took some cardboard from my garage and I made some basically random lines using a ruler. I just basically eyeballed it as to what I thought an arcade box would look like, I guess. And I made sure it'd be big enough for the Rubik spot to fit inside so you could use it for that. And then I just cut the pieces out with an X-Acto knife and taped them together. And they all fit together roughly like this plastic is here. And then once I had that cardboard frame for it, then I just untaped all of those cardboard things that I put together and then traced them out onto this plastic and cut out the plastic and then assembled it together. I wanted it to be really durable. I wanted it to be really durable for being able to ship back and forth in a suitcase. So I made sure to pick a really strong wood for the edges right here. I think I chose hickory. Do not like working with that, by the way. It's not as good as pine. Do not like. But I ended up using that and then putting it in the corners of the entire frame and then just using nuts and bolts to stick it to the wood and then stick each of the wood pieces that are in the corner to the pieces of plastic around the outside, like so. And that's how it all fits together. And then you can take all of the bolts out and then take each side apart so it folds down flat if you want to. So it's pretty portable and pretty good. So this is the first model I made out of cardboard, just using measurements with a ruler. I didn't have a specific design in mind, so I just kind of eyeballed it. and it turned out pretty good. On the cardboard form, the robot fit inside, everything was good, so I took it apart and I traced each of those cardboard panels onto the plastic sheet, and then I was able to cut out each of those pieces of plastic and assemble them using the wood in the corners. This was probably the hardest part of the process just because it was so time consuming to actually cut out every single piece and make sure it was exact enough to actually attach it to all of the other pieces and make sure all the wood was the right length, and it just took a really long time, but in the end I'm really pleased with the result. Once it was finished, it looked a little something like this, and in this picture I just put the buttons on top of it to see what it would look like once the buttons were on there, and I was pretty pleased with the result. So after I finished assembling the outside of the box, I guess, then I actually programmed the robot, which I hadn't done before. I just kind of figured that it would work based off of what the instructions online said would work, but I wasn't sure exactly if it would work or not because of the number of touch sensors I had and stuff, so I decided to start programming, and I ended up doing a couple of if-then loops on the Lego programming software, and then I just put it together, and it actually took a lot less time to program than I expected, because I haven't really programmed a ton with Lego robotics before. Like, I've done a little bit, but I wasn't as used to it as I was with Arduino and stuff like that. So being able to do that so quickly and with not that many problems associated with it was really, really fun. Being able to not come across any problems like I usually do programming, that was kind of nice. But yeah, so that was pretty neat, and I ended up trying to figure out for a long time how I could get it not to flip over the Rubik's Cube after it turned it, like this. I wanted to find out a way that it could just turn it and then lift up so you wouldn't have to figure out how to reset the cube every time, but I feel like the fact that it makes it a million times harder just to figure out where you got it from in the first place and get it back to that initial position makes it a lot more fun and frustrating to play with, so I feel like that's a plus. Not like that. Okay. What is going on here? Oh, this whole thing came out. Oh, yikes. Alright. Also, here is a screenshot of my code in case you guys wanted to check it out. One of the things that I was really focused on during this project was, instead of using just the normal touch sensors for the Rubik spot, that I would use arcade buttons, because that's kind of the whole point of an arcade. You wouldn't... Did I just bang my elbow on my desk? That was kind of painful. One of the main things that I wanted to focus on when I was making this project was not to use the normal touch sensors that you would use with a Lego Mindstorms spot, because those ones are like really kind of annoying and they don't really give you the feel of an arcade. So I wanted to use actual arcade buttons, and one person actually online told me that, oh, you can just hook them up, you can hook up normal buttons to the cables and it would be almost the same as a Lego touch sensor. It was just a normal button with just two leads and, yeah, fairly simple button. And I guess it is not a simple button. It was not, it took me forever to find the actual schematics for the buttons that are in the touch sensors. I ended up eventually finding them online, and they're a little more complicated than that. So I found that design, and then I used that to hook up my arcade buttons to the cables that I could hook into my Lego arcade bot. And it ended up working just fine in the end. So just being able to find that extra step and being able to hook those up was kind of important to the process. And it took a little bit. I feel like that was the hardest part of this project, as well as trying to get all the pieces of that outside to fit together the correct way without like looking kind of wonky. But overall, I feel like both those things really ended up just fine in the end, so worked out well. I will include the schematic in the video. I'll probably just put it over a voiceover or something, so. Here is the schematic for the Lego touch sensors. They had a couple more resistors than I was expecting, but other than that, it's a pretty easy design to follow. So I put it on a breadboard, And then once the breadboard design worked with the buttons, when you plugged it into the EV3, then I soldered them together, and then I had 3 working buttons that I could use for my arcade bot instead of using the Lego touch sensors, which is way better. I got the buttons from Adafruit through DigiKey. So that's a great company. Order their products. They always come through for us, and they have really, really great projects and parts and just anything you can think of for any project that you need. So be sure to check them out. I don't exactly remember specifically where in the process I did this, but I thought the wood on the inside looked a little bit boring, just on the edges, so I ended up painting them neon colors so that they light up in the blacklight, and this turned out really pretty cool because it makes it a lot brighter in there and it makes the colors really pop on the edges. I ended up painting with the blacklight on right next to where I was painting so that I could see if the coats of paint were thick enough and make sure that the colors were really coming through. And there wasn't a lot of space inside of that box. I kind of had to really reach in there, and I stuck my head in there a couple of times to make sure I could actually reach all the corners, and in the end it turned out pretty well. Then once I was done painting the edges, I ended up ordering a blacklight from online. I had used a couple of blacklights that we already had at home for a while, but then we didn't have any that were either small enough to fit in there or bright enough to actually do anything. So I ordered one online and I stuck it in this front part so that it would spill over into the back area. And then I added this reflected part on the top so that it would distribute the light a lot more throughout the box and make it a lot brighter and make the colors really pop. So that was pretty neat, and then, yeah, so, blacklights. This was the first small blacklight we used. It didn't light up the box very well, and it was kind of dim, and this was the new one that we used. And as you can see, it really lit up the entire box, and it made the colors come out really well, and I really liked it a lot more. I experimented with adding a reflective piece of plastic on the back of it to see if it would spread the light more, but it ended up just looking really bubbly and I didn't like it, so I left it off and instead just put the reflective part on the top so it would reflect the light throughout the box. And for the entire thing I was using a Rubik's Cube neon, so that's why it's lighting up so well. After everything was finished on the robot itself and on the box itself, then I finally drilled the holes in the front here to put the buttons in. That was the last part that I did. In order to have enough space to drill the holes in the front part, I had to unscrew that top plastic panel from the box itself, and then I was able to have enough space to fit the drill in there to drill the holes, and then I put the buttons in there, and then it was easy enough just to pop that front part back on since it's portable and it's supposed to come apart. Then, once the buttons were in, I hooked them up to the cables on the robot, and they worked really well. Then the entire thing was basically complete because this way you could open up the top, you could press the buttons on here. If you need to fix the buttons, you can just take this part off because it's all portable, and you can just fix it on there. If you really want to mess with just the robot, you can unhook everything, and it's like you can just basically pull the entire thing out if you wanted to. Don't steal it, it's bad. Yeah, and then having the front open like this allows you to mess with the cube itself if you wanted to, and put it back in if you wanted to. Okay, so even if it makes itself crooked or something, let me see if I can get it to do it. Okay, so even if it makes itself crooked or something like it just did there, it is a good enough Lego build. The Minecuber people did a really good job on this, that it'll automatically fix itself if it flips it over. So even if it does end up crooked, then it can still turn the cube and end up looking completely fine. So that was a really cool part of the build. I really like them for doing that. I think one of my favorite aspects of this project is how easily something can go wrong when you're trying to mess with the cube in the machine, just because when you're thinking about it in your hand, it's super simple and you just, even for someone like me who's a little bit more experienced in solving Rubik's Cubes, it takes a really, really long time for me to do something as simple as flower power or just a checkerboard pattern on the face of the Rubik's Cube. And just doing something like that it's crazy on this machine, and that's why I like it. It's so much more challenging, and it makes you really think about what you're doing. I wanted a sign for the front of it that would tell exactly what it was and who built it and stuff like that. So I called up my friends at DigiKey, specifically Ashley, and I was like, hey, do you know anybody who does stickers? I don't know how to do that. And she was like, yeah, sure, we'll send you some stickers. So we ended up getting some stickers for the front and the sides, and they look fantastic. So thank you, Ashley, and the graphics team at DigiKey. You guys did an awesome job, so thanks. So this is my Rubik's arcade bot, and it is a fantastic idea in theory, but at the same time, around the time that I was almost finishing up this project, COVID hit, and this is where things get really sad, because the whole idea of this project was so that people could interact with it and be able to touch it and touch the cube and be able to look at all the things and mess with it and it'd be fine. But now that COVID happened, if there was that many people in a large space, they wouldn't really be able to touch anything. And if you were touching the same things and spreading germs, then that's a thumbs down right now. So it's kind of sad that this project can't be played with as many people. But someday in the future, once this thing gets under control, then I will definitely bring this to an in-person maker fair, and you guys can play with it yourself and have a lot of fun with it, so that it can really have its time to shine, because I think it's a really cool project and you guys should be able to play with it. So yeah, for now you can just watch this video, watch this presentation on it at Miami Maker Faire, and still be able to enjoy it. So even though there's a lot of things about this project that wouldn't work in today's world because of germ spread and coronavirus, I'm really glad that I'm able to share this project with you through Miami Maker Faire. I'm so glad that Mario Cruz has organized this whole thing so that I can still share this project this year. And I'm so glad for you guys for showing up. So thank you, and I'll see you during the live meeting.